Hey everyone. So this time, you know what I did, Mark?
What did you do?
I prepared the thumbnail and the overview ahead of time because I knew this was coming today. So I was able to
That
not
makes
have to
sense.
run and make a thumbnail in 2 seconds like I normally do. So that was nice. I actually got a lot of work done today and got up nice and early, 7 o'clock in the morning. Went to sleep at like
Awesome.
2. And yeah. And actually, and I
The
have a rollout tonight at 11 p.m. So I'm gonna have to stay up all night.
Oh
Anyhow,
boy. Yeah, the Ancestry AMA is going really, really well today. I'm still at 90% on those demon feats. I would like to be at 100% by the end of the day. We'll see where I get on that, but that's the end of demons. So demons is going to be done for me very soon.
cool. So this is what happened. I actually was refreshing to try to find the survey, and I saw it popped up. But I'm gonna give a little bit of an update from yesterday because we saw the contract live and we're reacting to it live. And then a few other people did it, and I sent it to my lawyer, and he looked it over, and he'll talk about it. He'll probably be on the show next week. I'll get Alan back on, and he actually has a whole bunch of new things because he's read. I think he read every single comment on that video, and he will
Hmm.
answer some of the comments and questions because there was some very
Wow.
very common questions that kept coming up over and over again about how contracts versus licenses work, and he'll go into
That's
the
awesome.
details. But he's like, yeah, this is garbage. he was
Do we
he
have
was
the a possibility of adding on those extra TTRPG playing IP lawyers
I
to the
don't know. I'm
mix,
gonna.
or is that still
I'll see.
unsure?
It's not really an IP at this point. It's not an IP. I'll see if they can, but it's not an IP issue. It's a contract issue.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, it's like it's past IP. At first, a lot of people thought it was IP, but it actually is a contract because of everything I'm seeing. But anyhow, what I was what he was saying, and he was saying it way more eloquently than was, is that if the contracts don't have sort of a give and take, a quid quo pro, where you give up something and they give up something, it's not a contract. And actually, there's so much one-sidedness in this OGL 1.2 that it might not even hold up in court because it's like it's actually so erroneous and they hide it, and it's I won't go into it. He could explain it way better than I can, but his take on it was pretty much what we said, is that the morality clause, you can void it at any time. There was something that we missed, is that there's a clause in there that if they don't like you or anyone associated with your company, they can cancel the contract. If you personally do something that they don't morally agree with, it has nothing to do. So you can actually put out
Right.
content, but if they don't like you, Mark Seifter, and they're like, yeah, we don't like Mark, and he said something on a stream, we find it offensive, we're canceling the contract.
Plus, the use of the
Mhm.
word obscene. One thing we didn't notice in that one yesterday
Yeah.
that I saw some people commenting that is totally true. That's a word that has entered the zeitgeist and is used as like a code or a dog whistle
Yeah.
to try to get rid of LGBTQIA stuff by being like, oh, well, it's obscene. It's talking about things like in the bedroom. And that has happened. It's really happening right now. And
Hmm.
even if you say, well, it seems like Wizards' current administration wouldn't try to do that, even if that's
Hmm.
what you think. If it's in the contract and someone else was in charge, even if you're someone who does trust their current executives not to do that, that they would easily be usable for that, which is pretty bad news.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad contract overall, and he'll go into it a lot more detail than I can
Awesome.
from a legal point of view. But it was pretty much what we expected. Again, the only thing we missed was the personality morality clause where they can cancel you. The other thing is that he brought up a good point, is that morality is different in every country and even in every state. So, like drug use, like there's drugs in Pathfinder Second Edition. Is that considered offensive?
It could be.
Exactly. I mean,
Here's another thing: murder is illegal in most places
right.
and is something that you perform in tabletop RPGs. So
Right.
in theory, if they just didn't like you, they could be like, well, your game has murder in it. And you'd be like,
Mhm.
well, you didn't enforce that for all the other games, which all have it. And they say, well, we put that thing in there that said just because we didn't enforce it yet or for someone else doesn't mean we can't enforce it for you.
Mhm.
Yikes.
And by
Okay.
the way, actually, I'll answer this first super chat. Eric S. Riley for $5 says, "Can we highlight the fact that they changed the license from contributors under 1.0A to being a license between you and Wizards under 1.2?" Yeah, it's bad. And even the stuff they said we opened up with under Creative Commons is game rules that are so generic that it probably would have been covered under copyright anyhow. So like whatever. It's bad. I'll leave it at that. Back to this. So the survey came out, and if you try to take the survey and so much as breathe on it, it will reset. So
Oh no.
I looked at it, and well, it says it's submitted, even worse. So I went on
Well,
it.
that's really bad.
It gets worse. So I clicked on it, and I hit the back button, and it said, "You submitted the survey, thank you." And I was like, "Come on." And I was like, "All right, I did all my tricks." I mean, so first thing I did is I deleted all my cookies. That didn't work. I opened it up in incognito browser. That didn't work. I tried everything, and it wasn't working. So I then had my engineer look at it, and we figured out that it's definitely tied to your IP address, which stinks because I don't even use a VPN anymore. So I was like, ugh, I didn't really want to get a VPN. So what I decided to do is take pictures on my cell phone, which is better anyhow because the site is incredibly slow right now, and I figured it'd probably crash if we tried to do this live. So you're going to see screenshots from my cell phone. I went through the whole thing. It took like 20 minutes because the site is just dog awful and it's taking forever. And I was so scared to even breathe on this thing. I even made a new account. So I tried multiple accounts under D&D Beyond. So my professional opinion is that it is tied to your IP address. I did not try a VPN to test this out, but I'm pretty sure. And I used incognito. I did everything possible. So, and they're using a third-party company to do this survey, and I've never even heard of this company. I'm not using a reputable one like SurveyMonkey or something that can take this the site traffic. So whatever. Anyhow, let's take a look at it. And Mark, I know you're not looking at it. If you want, you could try to bring it up, but you're gonna have to watch.
No, it sounds like it's just going to explode.
It will.
And then cause my computer to explode. So I will watch when you put it on the screen. I will try to see it by watching the YouTube muted.
It's extremely repetitive. So once you can see it, you'll see how they did it.
You kind of want. Even a good survey does use repetitive language so that you can standardize the answer. That's not a bad thing.
I went through it. It's not terrible, but let's see. Let's go through it again to get again. You do not need a D&D Beyond account. I actually did it on my cell phone, and I wasn't logged into anything. So I don't think you need. I don't think you need anything. You could just.
I can see it now, or at least this beginning part.
Yeah, just don't. You can see it. Just don't do anything except press the forward button. And
I'm looking at yours.
Oh, you can see it on mine. I thought, okay. So, and this is for my cell phone. This is why it looks like this. Probably a little easier to read. So the first page, Dungeons & Dragons, thank you for participating in the survey. The survey will cover the proposed OGL 1.2 and will also provide an opportunity to share generalized feedback. Our goal is to measure both the clarity and proposed OGL 1.2 and D&D community's feedback on its contents. You can save your responses and come back to them later, but responses are completely finalized once submitted. Please do not leave any personally, I like how they wrote that wrong, identifiable information, name, email, etc., in any open text fields. And then the first question is, 1, would you like to provide feedback on the content of the proposed OGL 1.2? If you choose not to provide feedback on this content, you will still have the opportunity to provide other feedback. I did not say no, so I said yes, and that got us to question 2. Question 2, by the way, you see the little bar in the bottom, it says 8%, which is misleading because there's something like 25 questions in this thing.
Is it
And
because it's 8% of the pages?
yeah,
and
I have no
some
idea.
of them are multiple questions on a page.
I don't know. This is not a good survey. Sorry, it's not a good program they used. As someone who's written about a dozen survey programs in my life, I don't think this one's great. So let's see. Now, question 2 is, now you've read the proposed OGL 1.2, what concerns or questions come to mind for you? And it's just open-ended. That's it. That's all it says. So they start off right away with you doing open-ended. That's as far as it goes. I didn't have time to lay these all out, so I'm going to have to do this manually. I mean, if you have any comments on that, Mark, while I load the next question,
Yeah, I'm going to think about that. So it's very interesting that they started with a free response. Normally, I would, if I was making a survey, start with multiple choice first to try to get people kind of thinking about certain questions before putting them in the free response. However, in Wizard's case, there's just a known controversy about the OGL, so I can see how it might have made sense to start off and just be like, hey, just starting, what do you want to talk about? One of the downsides is if this thing is fragile and not easy to navigate back and forth, you might find out that the thing you decided to talk about had a question where you got to directly answer it quantifiably later, and maybe you would have wanted to talk about something else. So what's next?
Question 3 says, and this is where it all becomes very repetitive. After reading the proposed OGL 1.2, how has your perception of the future of Dungeons & Dragons changed compared to before reading the OGL 1.2? Multiple choice. Much worse, worse, the same, better, much better. That's it. For most of these have these exact or close to these 5. So
okay, so that's a Likert scale. In general, if you want to use a Likert scale that's unidirectional. If you make a double directional one like this, especially one that has a neutral option in the middle, it turns out that there's several weird effects that can happen, especially when the two things on the end of the scale are not necessarily as comparable. Better and worse are pretty easily comparable, so that's not one of the worst times to use that kind of scale. Then again, for this question, I don't know if it would be possible to do it in unidirectionals. This is probably the only thing they could. Another issue with question 3 from a survey designer's perspective is it doesn't actually create a comparison point. It implies the comparison is like just before reading it, but some people are going to do it as like compared to 1.0a, and now I've read 1.2, and some people are going to do it compared to 1.1, and now I've read 1.2, if you see what I mean.
I know exactly,
so
right. There's no comparison.
It doesn't say where you started.
Right.
So some people will be like, well, compared to 1.1, where you were taking 25% of our money above a certain point and guaranteeing if we got that big, we died as a company.
Right.
This is better than that. But other people will be like, well, compared to 1.0a, this is much worse.
Right.
Much, much worse. And so you're going to get it to be sort of muddled, where you have some degree of people that are one and the other, and then you might just think that some fans like it and some fans don't like it, when actually fans with the exact same opinion might have picked better. For example, I personally would say that 1.2 is better, not much better, but better than 1.1. I think, like, not much better, maybe about the same, somewhere in there.
It's better, but I was thinking it's like okay, when they put out 1.1, they rolled a 1. They put this out, maybe they rolled a 2. They still was terrible.
But my perception of the future has become slightly better because it showed they at least were willing to do something. And so I think there's a chance. Yeah. Because with 1.1, I didn't. So that's why the comparison matters so much, right? Because if you said before any of this happened, how do I feel now reading 1.2? Much worse than I did before any of this happened. And it still didn't help very much compared to like when this all started, but it was definitely better than 1.1. So you can see why this is going to get them slightly muddled answers, because they didn't specify exactly where the starting point was.
So after you select the answer, it then has another open-ended that says, what would be needed to improve your perception of Dungeons & Dragons future? And that's
so I have a question for you, Stephen. Did that pop up and just suddenly appear when you picked much worse, or was that always there?
Nope, it appears only after you select. I didn't select. because I was so scared of this thing breaking, and I really didn't want to like start driving around to change my IP address to like take pictures of this. That I only touched much worse. I don't know if it actually would have had that appear if I went to like better or much better or the same. So this is because of the technology. We're not doing a full interaction of this. I was
Sure.
going to try to, but plus the site was like I would click something and it literally might take 2-3 minutes for the next page to come up. So I was very, very frightened of this thing like going down on me. So
I do want to give them like full thumbs up on making that question appear only to people who picked much worse.
Well, we don't know that
because
because I didn't try the other ones.
but it wasn't there before.
It wasn't there
right?
before.
Like it suddenly appeared on the screen.
Yes.
But which probably means that it was conditional.
Probably.
Otherwise, it would have been there to begin with.
Correct.
That is a very good choice. Many surveys accidentally mess up by assuming that it's okay to put something in there and just write like if applicable or give you an NA option. But there's been a lot of research into surveys that shows that those NA options don't work and can still lead people to pick weird answers. For example, in a study to check those things with surveys, some people who said they were vegan, when given an option about types of meat that they eat regularly, accidentally picked with like a decent rate some of those meats, which obviously was a mistake and they should have picked NA. And if you don't even leave the NA, it's even worse. So this is good that they made conditional things that pop up only with certain options rather than just throwing it all out there.
By the way, hey, rules lawyers actually in chat, but I wanted to say something which I forgot. What did I just do? I totally messed things up.
Owen also says it is conditional. It's taking a survey at the same time, and the question doesn't pop up if you say the same. Owen is confirming it's conditional. So that is good. That is good survey design for that. Whereas question 3, as I said, has some significant challenges and issues as a question because it didn't tell you where you started from.
I might have actually just deleted all of the survey questions, which will make my life more difficult. So hold on.
Yeah, that is tricky.
Yeah, you guys talk amongst yourselves while
so Awesome 117 said that they picked the middle option, which I assume is stayed the same, and it still appeared. So they got a different result than Owen. Okay, so if it gives you different results for different people, that's obviously not good survey software design. But I'm going to assume that if that happened, that they were trying to only give it to people who said that it was worse or that it wasn't better, and not the people who said it was better or something like that.
All right, I think I got it.
Because I can see why they might have wanted to ask people who said it stayed the same, how can we make it better? But they probably didn't give it to people who said it was already better.
All right, sorry about that. I accidentally messed something up on my computer. I didn't have time to lay this out, so I'm literally loading in these screens as we go through this together. So that was, I believe that was question 4. Is that question 4? I think I didn't miss one, did I?
Yeah, question 4 was I think 4 was the follow-up question.
Okay,
to
right.
Where
Okay,
it said, what could we do that would make you feel
sorry,
that was better?
I just, my computer went wacky.
Okay, Kishi has confirmed if you say better or much better, that it does not show that question.
That's, so 5 is, how would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International? Understanding, 1, low, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is high. And then it's satisfaction, 1, low, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 is high. This chart is the most common chart. This is going to appear in almost every question going forward, by the way.
Okay, so I have a couple of issues with this one. So I do like that it's one directional and that it clearly states which end is which end. However, in general, it sort of is if you use numbers, sometimes, usually the highest is the best, but sometimes one can be like number 1 or the best.
Right.
And the one that comes at the top is sometimes we're biased psychologically to think that the top is the better one. I mean, it does say low and high. That's good. But there is a bit of a bias to make the top the better one. So I would have reversed it. Also, it can be nice. It can be helpful to label all 5 of the choices. A common Likert scale that does that, let's say for the understanding, you could say like something like extremely understandable, very understandable, somewhat understandable, not so understandable, and not at all understandable. The reason why this is helpful is that it gives you a really qualitative sense of what they mean at each step, rather than just be like, here's the top, here's the bottom, you figure out how to get to the middle. And it's more likely to make more people choose options that vary along the way. Even people who have strong opinions, you can find that if you label them all like that, that they won't always pick this like the highest or the lowest option every time, and think a little bit more about which options are going to be chosen. So this isn't bad, but it could have been better in that way.
By the way, Ronald the Rules Lawyer is here. He says that it's possible to skip the multiple choice questions and only fill out the free form parts.
I'm assuming that means you don't get any of the conditional free forms if you do that.
But again, I did not bang on this that hard because it kept breaking. Totally unrelated, Mike Saltzman for $5 said he tried Pathfinder 2nd Edition for the first time last night and loved the 3-action system. Felt faster, more dynamic. My level 1 ranger could do 4 attacks in a good round. Yep. Or if you're a monk, you can do it too.
And did we get the one before that from Eric S. Riley of, can we highlight the fact they changed the license from contributors under 1.08 to Wizards and You in 1.2?
Yep. I said that one, and
I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. But one thing I did want to mention is that my lawyer, Ronald, did look at this, and he's like, it's garbage. And a good example of why this is so what's going on right now in Twitter is, if you're not following this, is they have an API. And the problem with the API, and I promise we'll get back to the survey, is that anyone could use the Twitter API to get your tweets and all the functionality of Twitter in another program. And then they would sell ads on their program, and also you wouldn't see the Twitter ads. Now, this was a very good idea when they were trying to get traction and they were having other people build apps for them. The bad thing about it is that you weren't seeing all the ads and you weren't going through the Twitter's official apps. And guess what? They very quietly over the holidays killed the API, and the API doesn't work anymore. So suddenly, all my favorite apps and programs that I use to read my tweets are dead. And these companies have declared they're going out of business because they can't read it. They just overnight, they went from, yep, we have a big business and we have advertising and, pre-bought ads and all this stuff, to we're out of business. That is why you can't assume that if there's bad clauses in your contracts that they will never, ever invoke it. Here's a perfect example, is that for years, 10 plus years, whatever, however, Twitter's been around a long time. These apps have been around. The company is sold, new person takes over, decides to change tactics and move it to an ad revenue model where only place you can find your tweets is on their platform, and they killed everyone else. And who's to say that won't happen with WoTC? It's impossible. So that's why you got to be, this has to be bulletproof. It can't have any of these clauses, morality clauses, can't have any way for you to void the contract. None of that could be in there. And even if there is it in there, then it has to be a two-way street where you have you can bring them to court, or you can actually have a say to fix anything that they have issues with, as opposed to them being judge, jury, and executioner at will. And again, my lawyer will go into this much more, but that's actually against the heart of contracts, is that there has to be give and take. And if it's all take and no give, then it's like not even a contract. Anyhow, 6 is the next question, is how will you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with, and they underlined this, content found in the SRD that will be released under Creative Commons. And same scales before. Understanding 1 low, 5 high. Satisfaction 1 low, 5 high. So.
And someone asked a question about that Creative Commons. They said, Andrew Misem or Misem for $10 said, does it feel like Wizards including that CC license was an attempt to distract from the terms of the OGL 1.2 and confuse people by throwing an extra legal document into the mix?
A little bit.
Maybe to an extent.
I think so, because all the articles I've been reading, are starting to say, hey, look, they gave in. They gave Creative Commons. Except if you look at what they gave in Creative Commons,
very small.
it's very, very. Oh, you're totally out of focus, Mark. It's beyond.
Oh, no.
It's beyond small,
Block.
and it has no
refocus?
races. Yeah, better. Now you're in focus.
That didn't take 10 minutes.
It was there's no races, there's no ancestries, there's no classes. There's like all they had in there was like the basic building rules, common items, and like the most basic of rules. And it was it was so small that it might as well have been nothing.
I think it also might be an attempt to like divide and conquer, or get some people who think that amount in Creative Commons is enough for them to be like, okay, that's fine. In fact, those people wouldn't even need to use the 1.2. I believe if you're only going to use what's in Creative Commons and you don't need anything else, so then you can just use the Creative Commons.
By the way, Can't Find George says that what I said is not a fair statement, that his contracts are super bad for the person and great for companies. It's more or less the entire music industry. You're probably right, but are you signing individual contracts that are one-on-one? That's different than a common license, because when common licenses are involved, the rules are different. And again, I will have my contract lawyer on to explain it. He will do it much better than I do. But depending on the type of contract it is, like if you're going and doing a one-on-one contract with someone, it can be bad. It actually can be really bad. And that's just the way it is, because in theory, you're negotiating with someone. If you're doing a license that's being broadly applied to hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of people, the rules are different. So I don't think you're not wrong, but I think that's why we have to get a contract lawyer in who has a lot of experience with this, because he could explain it way better than we can. Let's see. Am I getting the right one in here? Nope, that's the wrong one. Yep, that's 7. So by the way, after I did the rating, and I hit low, it says, do you have any other comments about the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International and or the content that will be released under Creative Commons? So I said low under how I rated my satisfaction. I said understanding.
So
pretty much,
you have a low satisfaction.
I said understanding high on pretty much all these. I hope it's high. And satisfaction low on most of these, if not all of them personally. So that's the responses you're going to see when they come up. So
what's the difference between the two questions? That one of them was one of them about the number 5 before you hit it was, how would you rate your understanding and satisfaction with the Creative Commons itself?
Yes.
And then number 6 is the SRD content in the Creative Commons.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So would number 5 mean like, do you like this Creative Commons license just in general for anything? And number 6 was, do you like what we put into it?
Yeah.
So like if I said, I love this license, but you didn't put enough into it, would I say I'm satisfied with 5? And then in 6, I would say I have low satisfaction, probably.
Yeah. I didn't see. I did the same answers, and I didn't see a pop up on that other one. So
you're right, because the pop up is on the first one, and then it talks about both.
Yeah, and they actually have numbers on these pop ups, so I don't know if that's dynamic or not. By the way, so if anyone wants to know where the survey is in the show notes. So you can just take it directly there. And it's really buggy. The following questions cover material found in the introduction of the System Reference Document, SRD 5.1. Question 8. How would you rate the level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the Notice of Deauthorization? That is where they're deauthorizing 1.0a.
Yeah.
Your understanding,
so
1
to 5?
To like
rate that even lower than like low? Could it be 0?
No, it's understanding is low to high and satisfaction is low to high.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mostly understand what they said, but I don't understand why they think they can do it. So I don't know exactly how I would rate that.
Yeah, I know how
satisfaction is lowest,
so
because why are they deauthorizing? Why are they putting in this smokescreen with this morality clause?
Right. And again, I put in understanding high. Satisfaction low. And then question 9 popped up and says, do you have any other comments about the notice of deauthorization? And I forgot what I wrote in there. It was like, yeah, you can't do it or something like that. I don't know. It was like, I didn't take it too seriously just because I was trying to take screenshots, but I think everyone here knows my stance on pretty much everything here. So we're about halfway through, by the way. Next is the following questions covering material found in sections 1 to 4 of the proposed OGL 1.2. Question 10, how would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the types of content covered by the proposed OGL 1.2? Again, understanding low to high, satisfaction low to high. So, well, that's all I really had to say about that. And let's see, I'm just making sure I load the right one. And the next question is question 11. There wasn't a pop-up after that one. How do you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the content ownership rights outlined in the proposed OGL 1.2? Understanding low to high, satisfaction low to high.
So are those the ones that say that you own the content
Yes.
and Wizards does not own it and cannot use it?
Sort of.
But that you, if you sue them over it, you could only get monetary. You can't get injunctive relief and get them.
And if you win, they can still use your stuff.
Yeah, well, that's monetary.
I
You
know,
can't get injunctive relief, so they can
ridiculous.
use it. I mean, I imagine anyone who's willing to sign anything even remotely like this with WoTC, there would be some number of money such that they would be willing to be like, yeah, you can keep using my stuff now that you've paid me that. But obviously, it'd be nicer to negotiate that rather than having to sue for it.
It's yeah, they want. It's all about control. I was thinking about this last night. It's like I was reading it over again. I was thinking more, and I was like, really, it's about control, because there's so much in here that really has nothing to do with anything except control, especially when we get to the VTT stuff, because I'm like, why do they need to do this? Like, if they don't need to make their competition, try to hobble their competition. And then my lawyer had all these examples of this, like way more than I did, and he's like, yeah, he said that's ridiculous, because first, how do you enforce it? And second, if your thing is better, then it'll do better. It's simple as that. It's like, it's so ridiculous. Question 12, which was there, by the way, no matter what you answered, it was there ahead of time, is, do you have any...
Probably should be, since it just says, do you have any other comments?
Yeah, about
that's
the
a
types.
Good thing to put at the end.
Yeah, do you have any comments of type of content covered? So that was always there.
That's a good thing. You always want to end with that, although it leads me to a weird question of why did they start with something similar to, like, do you have any feedback that you want to provide? Like, wasn't that the first question 2?
Yeah.
Other than do you want to do anything, it's almost exactly the same as 12.
Yep.
So they're giving themselves potentially more work to have to read 2 and 12, which may be the same. 12 is one you would give more informedly now that you know what they actually already asked you for.
Yep.
This is what I was expecting, and why I was a little surprised that question 2 was kind of the same question.
So that was them also. They weren't asking you about, they weren't doing section by section. So that was sections 1 through 4. So now it's the following questions covering material found in sections 5 to 7 of the proposed OGL 1.2. Question 13, how would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the you control your content section? And again, understanding 1 to 5, high to low, low to high, satisfaction, low to high. That's it. And question 14 is, how would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the warranties and disclaimers section? So they, again, this isn't brain surgery here. It seems like they're just getting a feel for everything. And then the next one is... Oh, did I miss something? I don't think I missed something. Oh, I might have missed some... Hold on a second. I might need to... Excuse me while I go back to my emails and find... It looks like I'm missing some of the questions. Excuse me 1 second. I'll make sure I get them all. Yeah, I did this pretty fast. Whoops. Didn't need to do that. Come on, email. Stop being annoying. So, hey, how's everyone else doing? Everyone else having a good? Anyone going to do anything fun this weekend? Everyone going to be trying out Pathfinder? You guys check our interview with Eric Mona last night? He was fun. Eric is always a trip to be with. He's a funny guy. You know what? I might have forgotten to send it. Why don't you keep everyone entertained while I get the rest of the survey? While I get the rest of the survey.
So, because there's another section of the survey after that?
Yeah,
Wait, I'm seeing something here about the modification of termination section.
Yeah, hold on. I'm missing.
And whether you would be comfortable.
16,
oh, yeah, you're missing
17.
several questions.
I'm missing like 3.
So let me see what I can find from what people are saying about the survey right now in chat as we fill this out together.
Sorry, everyone.
So Tower of Tomes for 50 Danish krona said, I don't think WoTC can come back from this, even if they take everything back and leave OGL 1.0. The trust is simply gone. Can't wait for the orc. Let's see if I missed one from before that. No, I think that's all of the super chats.
Okay. I've got the missing pages. I'll be getting them up in a second.
Owen agreed with my statement and said, there's nothing I have written I won't let someone else use for some amount of money. Yeah, I think there's some people out there who would disagree with that, who have something that's so deeply personal and touches something that matters to them that it would feel like a violation to have it be used for any price. But I think many creators, there's at least some number you could name that they'd be like, I'm fine with Dungeons and Dragons having this.
Okay, there we go. I got the missing questions.
So there was a super chat from Tricknick for $10 mentioning that something about a D&D shorts leak about surveys, but do keep in mind that
he apologized.
That
he
leak
apologized
was,
for that.
Yeah, that leak was kind of debunked as, at best, it comes from someone from another department at WoTC who didn't understand how it worked.
It was debunked, and he publicly did a video today, and he publicly apologized, saying that his information was probably accurate for that person, but not for the whole department as a whole.
It's not very surprising, because I think in one of his early emails, he said that his leak was from D&D Beyond. And look, just based on my knowledge from Paizo, which is a smaller company, the chance that someone who was in a department that is as removed from the D&D design team as D&D Beyond is would actually know for sure 100% what every person did in the D&D design team seems super low. There's no way they would be able to say for sure if someone used it.
Owen Stevens is in the chat, and he said, and I trust Owen in his context, he said he knows multiple WoTC people who have been told they will read the text blocks.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's no reason to put it in if you're not going to read it. And you can get so much good information from it. Like I've said, I completely trust the people who said that they read it. And I've seen people say there were 70,000 comments. I've seen other people say that might be too many to read. It's not. If you're able to spend weeks on it, which they've said that they did, and I believe, you can read 70,000 comments. Now, 500,000, that might take years if you give a minute for each one and collate them. But 70,000 on 1D&D is readable. I know I'm the one who read things for Paizo. We did not have 70,000, but would definitely be possible.
So again, forgive me if I repeat this, but question 15 is, how would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the modification or termination section? And again, that's same scale. And then number 16 is, do you have any other comments about the you control your content, warranties and disclaimers, or modification or termination sections? So the survey is a little inconsistent. It's like, because it's strange, because they sort of, some things they nitpick, like the deauthorization of the OGL 1.0a, and then some of them they lump together like this. So it's a little bit all over the place, but I get that, because otherwise the survey is going to be like 100 pages. So I don't know if they were doing that on purpose or just figured out, because it was pretty long. in its current form. So let's see. Now we got the next ones. So now we get to the fun stuff. The following
Okay.
questions cover material found in the virtual tabletop policy. 17. How would you
Oh.
oh yeah. How would you rate your level of understanding and your level of satisfaction with the virtual tabletop policy? Understanding 1 low, 5 high, satisfaction 1 low, 5 high. And then once again, I believe it popped up after I did the satisfaction low is 18. Do you have any other comments about the virtual tabletop policy? So it's all just one question. And yeah, it's so strange because it's like I read that and I was thinking, I'm like, they're trying to do stuff. I don't see how they're going to control it. And again, it'll be better if we get Alan on as a legal expert to go through it. It's like, it's if they're trying to control what they are trying to lock down and sort of corner the market, a 6-page, 500 to 600 word document is not going to do it. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen these like EULAs, but they're gigantic. And, that's what the original document was 9,000 words. Like, you need to really specify very specifically, like, what is covered under theirs and what is covered under yours, but also how can you, like it's so generic. What could possibly be covered under a virtual tabletop that they can claim copyright or trademark on? I can't think of anything. It's so impossible to enforce. Let me close my door. You take over, Mark, because my dogs are barking.
Yeah, sure thing. So let's see what people are saying in there. Owen is completely confirming that people in one team won't know everything going on with another team. No, it's absolutely true. Just the amount of coordination that you need, even in a smaller company like Paizo, although to be fair, I guess the D&D team for WoTC is not that big of a team. But when you add in the Beyond team, it's going to be big. And that's where one of the people is from. But the amount of coordination and just like different conversations that you need to have to make sure that something didn't get dropped and that everyone is aware of things is pretty huge. You have to be almost like in a spider-like network of webs where you're connected to people and just constantly in communication, or it gets dropped on its own. It's really, really not shocking that different teams don't have the right information. It's just not good to publish something that's only based on what one team has seen that's not more directly associated with it.
Yeah.
Roadkill Phil for $5 said, how possible do you think it is for the community to force WoTC into an acceptable agreement with a truly irrevocable OGL? I don't think the community can force anything. I think that ultimately it's going to come down to pressure that makes it feel for WoTC that it is more profitable for WoTC to not revoke and to play nice than it is for them to push forward. And to do that, unfortunately, it's going to mean having to take a pretty hardline stance, because they're going to want to give some concessions, but keep the kernel of the thing they want the most. That's the most profitable for them, right? If they can get everyone's goodwill or enough people's goodwill back while not giving up the things they care about the most, it's going to take a concerted campaign to get them to back down on the things they care about the most, which seems to be trying to deauthorize 1.0a is like that, and the VTT stuff seems to be like their core of what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Eric actually has a good question. It's like, are we going to have the same scrutiny with the orc license? Yeah, of course we are. Like, look, I'm going to look at that thing with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm going to have my lawyer look at it. I ain't signing nothing. I don't sign anything without my lawyers looking at it, and I will go through it. As far as
they invited us to help them draft it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a good
first step. I'm going to go through it. I'm not allowed to share the drafts publicly. I won't. But Eric Mona said the drafts will probably leak in exactly 35 seconds after they get published. So I was going to say 35 seconds sounds a little long. I think it's going to take more like 10 seconds. But the point is, I think they are learning their lesson, and if they don't do what 1.0A was trying to do and then some, it's going to probably be a failure. And I think they know that.
Yeah.
So I'm very optimistic on that.
Right.
So,
So before we move on, one point people made in chat, very good point, is that even though I personally have full faith in the D&D design team, that, you know, I have faith. They're creative, they're passionate, they care about the community and the game, and they're reading their comments. People put out in the chat, well, the design team aren't the people who are actually going to be making the license. That's the lawyers and the executives. So just because the design team is reading those surveys doesn't mean that this different set of people is actually going to read these. And that's true, but I think they're going to read them because I think they want to know. I think they want to know where people are at, and they're hoping that what they will find out is that people are okay with them now, and that they can just kind of go forward and they don't have to give in more. And I think that honestly, it would be foolish for them not to read it and find out that information because it helps them. Knowledge is power. So I wouldn't be too worried that they're not going to read it, because I just think that what you should worry about is that whether they read it or not, they don't back down.
Yeah. There's only a few more questions left. It's 19 is, have you used the OGL 1.0A or previous versions of OGL to create third-party content? Yes. 20 is, do you want to create third-party content for Dungeons and Dragons in the future? Yes, maybe, no. And 22 came up, even though, did I select something? Why 22 just says, why did you say that?
It may be wait, it doesn't even say why did you say that for what. I assume
exactly
it's for
this is why did you say that.
Didn't specify. That's a bad question.
That's should say bad question.
It should say why did you say that you are not comfortable releasing tabletop RPG content under the proposed. Now maybe it's that obscure because it also comes up for I'm not sure. But then you could say why aren't you comfortable? Because I guess that's not true if you're not sure.
I don't know.
I can see why they might have gotten awkward, but they could have come up with a better way to do that than just why do you say that. Even so, I'm pretty sure it's attached to question number 21.
Yep. Oh wait, I already showed that one.
Jumas 420 for 1999 said, listen to me, keep the pressure on WoTC. We have the ball right now. They're back up. They're looking for an scapegoat. They want to force everyone to take a survey to prevent public backlash on their social media accounts.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, look, from a PR point of view, this is a smart move. They put a face to this movement. They're actually allowing people from WoTC to talk out. They have people taking a survey. They're saying they're listening to you, but in the end of the day, doesn't matter. It really doesn't. All that matters is what the contract says, and 1.2 is bad. I almost have to put this I might have to just put this on the screen so everyone can see it. There's 3 things WoTC wants. 3 things, and they're not going to give them up. 1, they want to revoke OGL 1.0A. They don't want people to make content for D&D 5th edition ever again. Period. And the only way they can do that is to cut off the source of 5th edition. They can't do it, but they're trying. 2, they're trying to make VTTs not usable except for theirs. They want everyone to use their VTTs and their online tools. That is their other pillar of what they're trying to do. And 3, they're trying to control the community. That's it. These are the 3 pillars I am saying that WoTC still has not given up in version 1.1, version 2.0, and then went back. So it's actually 1.1, went to version 2, and then went back to 1.2. So we're all over the place. So in all 3 versions, none of those 3 pillars have changed. I think none of these pillars are going to change ever. It doesn't matter how much we fill this out because they're too far down the road. If they feel that if they don't cut off the ability for people to build content for 5th edition, no one is going to buy, or less people are going to buy 6th edition. And so they're trying to make built-in obsolescence. And I'm going to tell you something that's been leaking around, and I've been hearing more and more and more and more about this, is supposedly, I'm not going to give my sources, but I have more than one, Mark. I have 3 so far that their sales have been bad. Like that they have warehouses full of books, and pretty much when they announced 1D&D, their sales didn't go off a cliff, but the old adage, like when as soon as you announce a new edition, say goodbye to all your sales for the current edition. And even them just announcing 1D&D, even though they said it's going to be backwards compatible, has really been hurting their sales.
I mean, that's no shock.
Yeah.
That's absolutely no. That is such a truism for the entire industry. That's not a warning sign for WoTC. That's not a shock. That's just what happens when you announce a new edition. I mean, I think it was smart for them to do things that were like setting or background information that might be more usable in the in-between slots, like how Pathfinder, some of the later things that came out were like Planes, the Planes book, right? That came out. But even then, it's going to go down. Once the new one is announced, people are not going to buy as much of that. And that just always happens. So I'm super unsurprised by what you said. In fact, I would be flabbergasted if that didn't happen. That would mean that 5th edition or the current thing that WoTC caught lightning in a bottle and had done something that has never happened before for any other edition of a tabletop RPG that I've ever heard of.
Yeah. Now, someone commented that they think, oh, Amazon sales. I'm talking to distributors. I'm talking to people who literally sell these books. I'm talking to insiders. Now, I'm not saying it went from like 100% to 0, but you know, they have to keep growing, and if they're not growing, then they're dying. And if it's, you know, they expect it to keep going up and not down, and if it's not going up, then they're in trouble. Spelljammer supposedly did not sell that well from what I heard. Spelljammer is one of those examples that, like, it is an interesting concept, because if you were really excited about Spelljammer like I was, they had to really nail that book, because the person who's going to buy that is someone who really wants to have science fiction in their fantasy. And the only way...
I somewhat disagree with that statement as someone who also really wanted Spelljammer, but go on.
Okay, well, my point is that if they're going to get the casual person, I think it had to be a good book. And the Spelljammer book got terrible, terrible reviews and was discounted almost immediately. And I think because of that, it got people like myself who were going to buy it, didn't. And then people who are casual might not pick it up because, you know, unless they heard like, oh, this thing has been great. Okay, I guess I'll check it out, even though I'm not interested in science fiction and my Dungeons and Dragons, you know. And what is your take on that? You said you disagree.
So I actually mostly agree. I just take some issue with saying that the people who want it are the ones who want science fiction in Dungeons and Dragons. As point of fact, the reason I like Spelljammer so much, and I really like Spelljammer, is because it didn't try to be science fiction. And because there are a lot of games that are out there that I would play instead of Dungeons and Dragons if I just wanted science fiction that were built from the ground up. But that it was just like, it's not even remotely the real world physics. Let's use like phlogiston theory from ancient Ptolemaic weird pseudoscience. And
I know what you're saying.
We've got ships in space, but it's just its own. It was willing to be its own thing in fantasy, which to me, I found that as when I was, younger, collecting all of those Spelljammer books, I found that to be fascinating and just like a super creative take, and I liked it. But other than that, I pretty much agree with you on the business side of it.
Yeah, but my point is that not necessarily science fiction. If it was like if anything, it was like science weird. It
Yeah,
was just
weird space fantasy
yeah,
is
it
what I
was
would
really
say.
really weird. But the point is that it's a hard sell to sell that to new people or casual people. So unless it's really good, I think you weren't going to get those people. And if the reviews are bad and the hardcore people aren't going to buy it, I don't think it's going to sell very well. And once I heard that, and I listened to every review, I watched it because I was going to buy it. I was so excited. And then I was like, wow, they're just ripping into this. Like, people were ripping into it. I was like, I didn't even look at it. I'm like, I was like, I almost don't want it to ruin my memory of what Spelljammer was. That's how upset I was by the whole thing. So I was like, I'm not even going to bother even looking at it. And, that is like, starting new settings is tricky. And yeah, that's something else. They've been starting to hit new settings, and if they don't really hit them out of the park with these new settings, I don't think they're going to do the. In fact, the last someone actually, what was the last good WoTC 5e book? Wild Beyond the Witchlight. That book is good. I like that book a lot, actually. That was it. That was the last one, in my opinion. That was good. And that one, weird setting, but really well done. Really well done. But after that, I won't go into it. We can do a whole show on that. Anyhow,
Sure.
next.
So let's take some more of the questions.
Yeah, we're almost done. We're almost done.
For $5, said Section 6F is a censorship clause that is authoritarian and does not belong in an open license. So, I mean, Eric Mona made a similar point last night about Orc, is that many companies might want to have a compatibility license that's separate. That's like, okay, if you want to associate yourself really directly with our logo, we have a few more things to say about it. But that the open license for just the game content, it just didn't make sense to him, which he made a lot of qualifiers. And like, I'm not the only one writing the org. Other people may have different opinions, but it didn't make sense to him that should involve some kind of like a council deciding what was obscene and what was not obscene. So Yellowclad King for $5 said, have a PF2E session 0 planned for the weekend using Roll for Combat content among other third party. Excited to have my first Dragon PC. Love your work. Keep it up. Thank you, Yellowclad King. That's what makes it all worth it, is just people enjoying and loving the game. Like,
and once you play a dragon,
to design games if that didn't happen.
I'm gonna tell you, once you play a dragon, you're never going back. It's so much fun. It's even fun just to GM dragons because they're so crazy, man. They could do so much stuff, but they're not overpowered. In fact, they're very well balanced because, like Vanessa's dragon in my game, like it's really good at what it's good at, but it's really bad at what it can't do. Like it's a lot of highs and lows for her character, and it's nice. She has no skills. Like, she has like 2 skills, and that's it. So, like, she's really good. She's a inventor. She's really good at tinkering, and she's really good at combat. But it's like, you want to do a skill check? She's like, nope, because she doesn't have any. So, good balance.
So David Feig for $5 says, any ideas on why the quality of recent Wizards products has gone down?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Oh, I know, but I can't talk about it.
Quality has gone down. That's something Steven has said that I have not said.
Yeah.
I could speculate, but I won't because I don't want to. I
know why, but I can't talk about it publicly. Let's leave it at that.
All right, then it's probably whatever I would have speculated at.
Yeah.
Let's move to Let's Reason Together for $50. Thank you for your work. This $50 is for 10 times $5 questions from general chat that include Castles and Crusaders in their questions. It's a pay it forward. Please review general chat to find Castles and Crusades questions.
Whoa, I've never played Castles and Crusades, but we'll try.
Yeah, we'll try.
And someone
Steven, can you look for that while I do 3D Factors 2 Euro question, where WoTC is trying to turn a license into contract? Is their question?
Oh. Yeah, they're trying to turn it. It's a license / licenses are contracts. That's the thing. They come under contract law. That's why I want a contract attorney to come on and talk about it. A license is a contract between you and them, but the more general it is and the more people it hits, it has to be a little bit more fair. Like, you can't make it so draconian and say, here you go, whether you want to use it or not, it's like, well, it's not going to hold up. But if you're going on a 1-on-1 contract, like you're signing a contract like to, with a record label, it can be draconian because you are the only person being affected. And that's a whole other, the rules are different.
So we missed CD's super chat for $5.
Okay.
Doesn't the VTT policy mean that you can't make it like a video game and have D&D stuff? So you can still make a video game one that has no D&D stuff? I think that's true.
It's so vague, that's the point.
But it's kind of vague.
It's so vague that, yeah.
Josh Law for $5 in about the same place, which we also missed, said, have you seen the RPG Open Survey?
No, I didn't see that one yet. Yeah. Someone said Castles and Crusades is an amazing rule set. I have not played
MMA
it.
History and Highlights said past and future SRDs must be included. Agree? I mean, they have future, but they need the past ones or else, or just don't deauthorize 1.0A and let that work for the past ones. It's totally, in my opinion, whether or not I'll sign to it is a different story, but it's totally within their rights to make a new license for the new stuff that is different, even if I don't like the new license. But trying to get rid of the old license is where they really get into trouble, in my opinion.
Some people are like surprised that I like the Feywild, the Witchlight. There's no combat in it. It's actually designed that you can do the whole thing through talking. You know what? It's cool. It actually it's a well done module for what it is. And the art's beautiful. It's a fun module. It's not a hack and slash. It's not a dungeon crawl. It's a fun, goofy module. I like those personally. So for me, I kind of liked it. I didn't run it though. And Norbert actually, he wrote a couple times, Stephen Mark, do you think Free League's Middle Earth 5e launch will go forward? Yeah, probably because they probably printed all the books. So if you print all the books, then you gotta put them out. So there you go. So I think it's going forward. And so I'm
searching and I don't see what I see for Castles and Crusades was Castles and Crusades amazing rule set you saw. I saw CSC is great, my system of choice. Yep. And then Davram said, I love the homage to the AD&D books in the cover art of the CNC core books. So those are the 3 Castles and Crusade comments that I was able to find in chat. There may have been others that scrolled past.
Stephen Grass says it's not well done. Run it before you say that. You know what? I know what you're saying, but keep in mind, as someone who's read about 1,000 modules in my life, and I've been a forever GM and run about a third of all the adventure paths, it's different for me. So there might be issues in it that I can fix in my mind. So it's a little different for me. Like, to me, I look at it more as a framework, and I really like the framework. So
some of it is also the joy of reading it.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, some adventures are something that sparks joy and that give you inspiration to create something else, even if admittedly it doesn't have everything it needs. And sometimes it just feels so bare bones that it leaves you with spikes of anxiety, wondering how you're even going to run it. Yeah. And that could be the same adventure, 2 different GMs who have different reactions that are completely both reasonable for it. So
yeah, everyone reacts to this way. Everyone has opinions. It's like I look at it different than other people. And I like the way they set it up. I like the overview. I like the arc. I thought it was well done. Now, I'm not saying would I put it in even my top 30 adventures of all time. No, I mean, I trust me, it's good, but I can think of 30 ones that are better. No problem. Actually, let's go. There's like 2 more things left. We didn't even finish it. So compared to the OGL 1.0A, do you feel that you would be able to continue developing content the same way under the OGL, the proposed OGL 1.2? Yes,
heck
no, not sure. No. And this was already there. It said, why did you say that? So they had, again, why did you say that? And it just says that. But it doesn't matter what you answer. It just says that. Whatever.
Well, and maybe in that case, they just want to know why you think you would be able to use it.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay.
It's going to be hard.
It would have been nice if they qualified what they meant for why did you say that. But in this case, they may just want to know your explanation.
Yeah, but also, this is going to be so hard to go through and read, because if you say, why did you say that, and you don't qualify with the yes, no, or not sure, how do you know what you're responding to? The proper way to set up this is that you have a dynamic question come up after the yes, the no, and the not sure, so that you can read all the yes open responses, no open responses, and not sure open responses. This is going to be a
You're right.
nightmare for them to figure out.
That way the reader would see, why did you say that you
Right.
can't do things the same?
Yeah.
Because there could be one person who says that they're not sure for the same reason that someone else said no. And you didn't even know, because all you're seeing is the reasons. It'll at least be very, as the person who's had to read it, Stephen, I appreciate the fact that you're looking out for the equivalent person of me who has to do this for WoTC here, because you're right. That would be a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, total
because
nightmare.
you want to get all the questions together. You don't want to have to read like survey person A's entire survey first and then do survey person B. You want to do
you need
everybody answering question 24, for example.
Right. You want 24. You want 23 yes, and then 24, and then you want 23 no. You want to have 24.
You want to have the ability to look at survey person number 296's entire survey if you want to. Survey Monkey gives you that, but you want to start by looking at the same question across everyone, because that's where you're going to need to make the analysis.
Now, the backend tool might be able to allow you to like cut it the way that I describe, and it probably does. It probably does allow you to sort and cut it so that you can only see the 23 yeses and then see that. So I will keep that in mind, but still, I'm not sure. It's just a pain in the neck. That's what I'm saying. The way they set it up is probably easier, but it's going to make more work in the end, as opposed to if you did it more detail oriented with subsections for each question. It's a pain to set up, but it makes it way easier in the back end, especially for a survey that you're expecting 50 to 100,000 people to. See, this is what bothers me about WoTC, is that they don't act like a big company when it comes to stuff like this. Like, this is a very important survey. This is something that geeks and people who do this for a living or have experience doing this are going to look at this. And if they don't bring in their A+ people to build these surveys and really like put it even on a platform that doesn't crash constantly, this is ridiculous. Like, this bothers me so much. And say what you will about Apple or some of the other, programs out there, companies out there, when they put out stuff and it's slick as hell and it's really easy to use and it's beautiful UI, that affects not just how you take the survey, but how the responses are part of the survey. And, it's almost like they want bad responses because they're making it so nasty. Ugh.
I don't think they want bad responses.
Oh, I don't think they want it. I think they're going to get.
I'm just going to say that my usual policy of not assuming malice when you can assume incompetence on the part of people.
Oh, I think it's incompetence. Yeah.
So that is obviously failed in some cases with what some of the things WoTC did were legitimately malicious at 1.1.
Yeah.
Even I, who say that you always assume that it's from not out of malice, that it's just a misunderstanding. There is some things, but I think with this survey, they just didn't know some of these things.
I know, but
it doesn't seem like a survey that was maliciously created with the intent of being a gotcha. It just, to me, I've seen surveys that were designed by people with good intentions that just didn't know what they were doing completely, and this matches with those as far as I can tell.
It's disappointing because you really got to do it right. It's like you only get one chance. So
the N dash that was formed of two smaller dashes said it's because it's an emergency survey built after execs forced them to make a statement out that said that they would run a playtest and gather survey and then build it in less than 3 days.
Big deal. That's not an excuse. I put out stuff. How fast do we put out stuff, Mark? And and I would say it's good quality. So you get someone who knows what they're doing, they can put out a survey in 1 day. Okay, simple as that. Anyhow, the following question covered material found in the Introduction to System Reference Document 5.1, number 25. How would you rate your interest in using the Context Creator badge as part of your third-party works? And it was low to high, 1 being low, 5 to high. And this is also a different layout, by the way. They changed the layout for this. And number 26 is, do you have any other comments about the content creator badges? So pretty straightforward. Just would you use them and what do you think of them? And we're up to the last survey questions. This is it. And then finally, it says you can save your answers and come back using a link that will be sent to an email address of your choosing. Please ensure you have received the link and to continue before leaving the survey. If you choose to do so, this email address is not saved or associated with your final response. Once the survey is submitted, your survey submission will be finalized and will not be able to change your survey responses at this point. What other feedback do you have for us related to the Open Games license or otherwise? I didn't see where there's a button at the top where it says save and continue survey later. I guess that's where you can email it to yourself. Again, I didn't touch it because this thing was so buggy. And yeah, frozen. Someone wrote frozen at 92%. I had this thing freezing on me, and I was just like, it felt like hours. It took like 2 or 3 minutes for new pages to load when I tried to do this. And then finally, it says, thank you for taking the survey. Your feedback is crucial to our stewardship of the D&D game. The results of the survey will be the results of this survey will be made available by February 17th, 2023.
So I want to make a comment on that.
That's it.
Yeah, I want to make a comment on that though. If I was them, I understand that giving a date actually makes them seem more sincere and like we're going to be accountable. But I feel like giving a date means that no matter how many of these they receive, they have to get the results out by February 17th. And it's possible they don't have enough people if they receive too many of the surveys. Now, that probably won't happen, but it means that they either have to like violate that date that they gave or else be willing to not, put a lot of time into each survey if they get 500,000 or however many that is impossible to go through in that period of time. There were some interesting things in the comments. Someone who said that they've done some social science work and that this would be an issue for focus groups over sort of a wide range opt-in survey. Well, wide range opt-in survey is never the best move. It just isn't. I've done a wide range opt-in survey multiple times, and it's not the best thing, but it is something that you can do without having to necessarily like spend a huge amount of money on a company that really focuses on focus groups or getting surveys out to everyone in America and then narrowing it down to the ones who play your game. That's not an excuse. Obviously, this is important enough that maybe they should get one of those firms to help them out. But a wide range opt-in survey is something anyone could do. That's
exactly what I'm saying. It's like this is a Fortune 500 company needs to get a survey out, hire a firm, do this professionally, have a third party doing the analysis instead of taxing your internal people, throwing this up on some random survey website that barely works.
It's plus, the third party's analysis would inspire more faith.
Oh, right? That's the other thing. Yeah, you get a third.
It's like, hey, we hired a third party and we have them putting out the results. We're not putting it out. It is not vetted by us before it comes out. I feel like I would feel, even though, yes, the people who got hired are being paid by WoTC, so they do have some incentive to not be complete jerks with what they're doing, but I would feel more faith that it was done by an independent group than I would with. So there's multiple reasons, but it comes down, I think, to money and time, because those external companies are going to need time.
Yeah, but you know what? These Fortune 500 companies usually have contracts and work with this is not like you and me. Are these big companies that usually have people like this, or they go to their ad agency, like okay, ad agencies and other agencies they use have these contacts all the time. They do it a lot. They call up their ad agency. They say, we need a survey. We need your help. Yeah, it's going to cost money. We get it. Get it done. We need it done in 3 days. They will get it done, and they'll do a good job. Because then WoTC doesn't have to worry about it, and then they hand it off to someone else whose entire profession is based around this. Again, this just feels so half-assed, the survey. It just none of this is inspiring any confidence on them. And it's really funny because like their books are, I have issues with the design of their books, but they present well. Okay. I don't think they're designed great, but they do present well. Magic cards, beautiful. Actually, magic cards
Awesome.
are amazingly well done.
From like a UI design standpoint,
very good.
They are really, really good at
very,
very,
very good. And they present so well as a company. If you want to see, they have the nicest, most fun financial statements ever. Download them, they're free. They got graphics, they're goofy, they're amazing. And I'm like, wow, this is so nice. Like, they present so well, and then they've been handling so poorly, and they seem so amateurish. It just does not inspire confidence that this is someone who wants to herald and shepherd Dungeons and Dragons and take control over my content. No, I'm not letting you touch anything of mine. This is pathetic. Anyhow, let's go to a super chat. Great Role Playing Debbie sent a $6.88 super chat. Moral clause bad. Can't third-party creators help enable mental health chats catharsis on SA slavery? If people think my content is not acceptable, it won't be bought. TTRPGs are often form of therapy. So basically, they're just saying that TTRPGs cover wide range of topics, and a lot of people do use them as therapy or use them to as catharticism to get out relief. And it's funny, after that morality clause started to come out, people were listing quote adult RPGs that I don't even think were that adult, but like, all of White Wolf, like everything White Wolf, that's all, like, that would all get banned under a morality clause.
Sure, and Song of Ice and Fire, it could be. And when you say it would get banned, it's simply that could. And the fact that it could is a sword of Damocles that's hanging over your head, because they also had another clause that said they can, just because they haven't done it yet doesn't mean they can't do it later.
Right.
So they could just pick out, let's say hypothetically, obviously not going to happen, that there was a Vampire the Masquerade under this 1.2. And then it goes fine for a few years, and then like there's a dispute. WoTC doesn't like something that White Wolf has done separately, and so then at that point they're like, all right, we're taking down all this vampire stuff because of it's obscene or something like that. So there are definitely issues.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. A lot of people are saying nice things about Castles and Crusades. Castle and Crusades joined Orc, which they said they liked. Someone said they just downloaded the 7th edition player's guide for free, and they said it looks awesome. So I'm trying to find all the Castle and Crusader stuff. Again, I've never
we try to find up to 10.
I never played it. I'm very much aware it's up to 7th edition. That's kind of amazing. Here's the thing. It's like you and I really, I've played a lot and I've seen a lot. And this is a game I've heard of this game, and it's up to its 7th printing. Yeah. And yet I don't know anyone who's played it. I've never played it.
One of my friends from my high school group has done OSR stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although Castles and Crusades, I think, kind of is from even before. It predates the OSR, right? Like the original Castles and Crusades, but
it's very old.
The newer versions would be like in the OSR crowd. So I could ask him. He got in contact with me because YouTube just played one of our things in his car when he doesn't usually listen to our tabletop D&D stuff, and then he was like, Mark, it was you.
I'm getting a lot of that.
So he said he'd be happy to talk about that, and he also has been playing, what's the one that got a Humble Bundle recently, like Vesson RPG?
Yeah, Vesson.
That's one that he really likes too. He's excited. He wants to talk to me about those in case we want to talk about them on the show. He sent me an email like yesterday or something.
Yeah, a lot of people are actually saying...
I can get more information if people are interested.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, hey, I was just listening.
From high school.
And then you like autoplayed next. And I was like, really? Okay. Guess we made it. I made it when you're automatically being suggested by YouTube. Domas420 and a $4.99 super chat says, I'm telling you, they do not intend to read any of the surveys. Think about it. There will be hundreds of thousands. They will not. I disagree. They're going to read them. Look, I don't know how they're going to read them. I don't know what they're going to do and how they're going to organize them.
They might have to use AI or a tool to help them focus on certain phrases and certain types of surveys. Like maybe they want to read specifically the people who say, I can't publish under this, and all the things those people said. They might have to filter them, but if they get too many, but there's no way they're going to just ignore that information, because they need that information to try to give back as little as possible, but still get people to not be upset. And I'm not even saying that as a dig. Like, good negotiation is to try to get people what they want while giving away as little of what you want. Unfortunately, the things they want the most are some of the things that we need, like not the authorizing 1.0.
Yeah, the 3 pillars, I'm going to call them, of what they want is what we want. And that's where the push and pull is. And the whole joke is they could leave all those alone, and if their product is good, it will succeed. But it comes across as desperate that not only do they want their product to succeed, but they're doing everything in their power to handicap and knock out everyone else's product to make sure their product succeeds. And it just is coming off terribly. It's just like everyone's losing faith and trust. And it's also making me even lose faith and trust in 6th edition, because I'm like, if you guys have to literally put such draconian language in your contracts to make sure no one can use anything before 6th edition, how good can it be? I mean, you're like basically
the D&D design team. I think they'll try to make something good, but there could be executive meddling that we don't know. Like they could have a bunch of things from mandates from on high that aren't anything that they have control over. That are like, that tell them they have to focus on certain things because of what the executives want. That's pretty common. If you're like their whole genres, right? Like you had Michael from The Office on one of our videos as like the thumbnail, and like there's genres of TV and other things about out of touch bosses who try to tell you to do something that doesn't make any sense. So that could happen, but I think that there are really smart, really creative people on the D&D design team who are going to try to design something really cool if they can.
Someone wrote and they said it was an Iron Chestnut said they don't believe in their product anymore. I don't even think that's it. I think they need, as a company, to show growth, and Hasbro has to continue to grow as a company. And if they don't, the people who are in charge are all going to get fired. So if you have a very nice, cushy job and your goal is to make money and show growth in your company, if they have to burn down their brands and their loyalty to force everyone to use their products, so be it. And they probably were able to get that done and get away with that in their past jobs, especially in software. They vastly misunderstood the market, and they vastly misunderstood how Dungeons and Dragons works, and that it is not their product, it's our product. And they're learning that the hard way. And
so
that's
here's my take on that one.
That's it.
I have a slightly different take.
Okay.
So mine's based on what Ryan Dancy said that I found really interesting. He said so many great things in his interview with us, but I think, and I don't want to put words in Ryan's mouth and say that he would say exactly this, but just based on some of the things he said about past decisions, when Iron Chestnut says they don't even believe in their product now, first of all, let's talk about they. I think the D&D design team really believe in their product. They're passionate about it. They do great work and they believe in it. But I think Iron Chestnut was talking about the executives, right? Like that was what the context is. Based on what I heard from Ryan Dancy, I don't think they ever believed in the product. What Ryan said was that they don't think the product really matters that much as long as it's good enough. They believe in the brand and the trademark, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
They strongly believe in that brand. In fact, they over believed in that brand. They believed that brand was so dominant and the only thing that people cared about, that no one would care about any of the third-party companies or other people who get crushed underfoot because the trademark and the brand were dominant. So the executives never really believed in or cared about the product per se, as long as it was good enough that it wouldn't just massively have people revolting. Like the fact is that Dungeons and Dragons 5e was designed like pretty well, and they didn't even need it to be designed that well. From there, it seems like from what Ryan was saying, they just needed to be good enough, and they believed the brand and the trademark, that's what they believed in. So that's my take. I don't know if you agree with that, Stephen, but
I
it's
agree.
slightly different than
I
what you
agree.
said.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Is that they're using that they're turning this into, they're using the brand and the trademark to turn D&D into a video game, into a lifestyle brand with different people in a different way. That it's not role playing. They're trying to turn it into fantasy game that they control through a VTT that's going to have a ton of monetization, and they are using the D&D brand, which has worldwide recognition, and they realize they can't sell that many books and they can only sell them for so much money. But you go online and you don't have to worry about distribution. I mean, I don't have to get into it, but man, you can just print money when you're online, especially in this market and what they're doing. And, the problem is they're kind of late to the party. And they're like, it's like there's other VTTs out there. There's other online tools. There's a lot of people that are doing this well. There's a lot of tools that people have. And moving people from one VTT to another is going to be hard. That's a hard sell. So they feel that they need to force everyone over. They have to make it that you have to use our tool set, whether you want to or not. Because if they wait around, they don't have the time and the money to burn, because they might have done some internal calculations, said, you know what, it might take 5 years, 3 to 5 years for people to move over to our system and start like really embracing 6th edition. And they're like, we don't have 3 years. We have 1 year. So how do we do that? And it's like, the only way we could do it is to force them. I'm like, so be it. Then that's what we're going to do. That's my take. Roadkill Phil sent $5 and says, on a more positive note, what are some of your favorite second party modules and adventure, or first or third party? We've actually answered this question a couple of times, but I'm going to answer new this time.
Let's see. Your favorite second party product adventure was obviously Age of Worms. Since
Correct.
That was made by Paizo under a license with Wizards, it actually fully follows the video game definition of second party. And yes everyone, no one said this yet in the chat, but yes, I know that second party in a contract is usually the person, like the user, it's like the first party is the people who are making it, the second party is the user, the third party is another company. But in video games, second party is like when Rare made those Donkey Kong 64 games. And it's when a second company has a license with the first company to do some stuff for them. And Age of Worms, your favorite all time, would be a second party adventure because Paizo made it for Wizards in the Dungeons and Dragons universe at that time.
Yes. I have another one, though, a more modern one that I was thinking about, besides my own, which you can download now for free.
Sure. Jewel of the Indigo Isles.
I updated the file. Now you get interactive maps that you can export with any of the lines on it, or the any of the guidelines on it for the map, or the map markers. You can take them on or take them off. And I gave everyone free tokens for the pre-gens. So I added more. So if you want to get that, it's free. But I was thinking about this. Now, I've run a lot, and I mean a lot, of Pathfinder adventure paths, both first and second edition. Most of them, not all of them, but I've read almost all of them. I have to say, Agents of Edgewatch is so freaking good. I mean, we're only up to book 4. I love it. I have not had this much fun. I think it's incredibly well written. It is. They also did something, is that they took, and I like when people do this, it's kind of a cop-out, but I like it personally. They took from modern movies, television, and lore and put it into a video game. Like, for example, right now, we're doing the which one are we doing? The one instead of Assault on Precinct 13, it's Assault on Hunting Lodge 7. They literally took the movie and made it into a game. It's so much fun. There's one of the books where you're in a casino heist, like Ocean's 11. One of the books, so like I get to be Ocean's 11. I get to be Assault on Precinct 13. There's Black Sunday, which no one has seen, by the way, I guarantee, except me and like 5 people watching now, where they have a bomb at the Super Bowl. They took all these great movies and they put it in, and you play out those movies. So as someone who's older, who grew up with these movies, me and my friends are freaking loving it. And it's fun playing a constable and being good and having a moral compass. Like, it's really fun. So I am probably overselling it, but I think this is an absolutely fantastic adventure path. Excellent. What was yours, Mark?
For a second party?
Or you're just even what you like, because you didn't even answer first or second.
For Paizo itself, I really like in first edition War for the Crown. I had a ton of fun running it in a second edition conversion for my group. Strength of Thousands I like a lot. Is a good adventure path. For those second party Paizo ones, I played Shackled City. I heard Age of Worms is better. I tried to play the beginning of Savage Tide, which supposedly maybe even better than those, but
I didn't like it that much.
My Savage Tide game fell apart.
Yeah.
So
it was fine. Like, it was good. Like, put it this way, I think a Savage Tides is like a 9 out of 10, but it's not a 10 out of 10. That's
fair enough.
It's great.
Well, I mean,
it's
the fact
really
that it fell
good.
apart is not necessarily as good of assignment. It's not the adventure's fault. When your group falls apart.
And you fight at the end of the 3.5 level Demigorgon, like the real Demigorgon.
Having Demigorgons gotta count for something, right? I feel like Demigorgon has more cachet than Caius.
Oh yeah,
No offense to Caius.
Yeah, the worm that walks, but dude, he was cool. It was awesome.
He's cool, but I think Demogorgon has more cachet.
Also,
Stranger Things, etc.
Also, Age of Worms, and you know my group because they play everything on hard mode. Age of Worms is hard. I mean, it is really, really tough, and it is a freaking bloodbath if you play that game. I've heard people who go through reams of characters playing that thing. We loved it. It is. Oof. I don't think you'll ever see anything like that ever again. Plus, it's 12 adventures. And you know, Eric Mona, he was originally going to make Age of Worms 20 adventures.
Dun, dun, dun.
1 adventure per level. Can you imagine? Oh my God.
I wonder who had to grab him and shake him and be like, "No, Eric, no."
He and I have talked about it because it's his baby. He designed it. He did the whole thing. It's so good.
That would have been too many adventures.
Too many. I know.
For the magazine to have it just would have been
20.
Too long of a critical path to have to collect.
I know. Anyhow, wait. So we got a whole bunch of new super chats.
Okay.
Underhill for $5 said, "Wouldn't they be able to state on their website VOG level 1.0 is revoked if they're able to revoke it?" Yeah, can they revoke it? Supposedly yes. There's like a clause in there that can make OGL 1.2 null and void for
they can sever it by finding one thing that was unenforceable, for example.
And then they can that's why it's
adding something unenforceable.
That's why it's so bad, is because unless this thing is in bedrock and it's like, this is it, and all we can do is put out a new one, but nothing will affect this old one. And if you violate it, there's steps to have you no longer publish material. It can't be, we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. You give up your right to a trial, you give up your rights, and we can get rid of you at any time, and we could change this at will. That's what 1.2 did in a nutshell. Ash Sharandi said for $5, "I think they fundamentally misunderstand that the product is actually time investment in playing the game and not the brand." Yeah, that's the other thing. That's why it's so hard. they're going to learn their lesson, because it is so hard to move people from one game to another. I play Adventure Paths personally. We play a game for 2 to 3 years. You know how hard it is for me to tell them to play a new game of Pathfinder, let alone a new game? It's very hard. And they're going to lose all these people, and they're losing them to Pathfinder, Starfinder, or any other third-party product. They're not coming back for a while. Maybe they're going to come back in 3 years. Maybe they'll come back in 5 years. They're not coming back in the near future, because if they're going to start playing a game, they're going to probably want to try it out. And if they like it, they're going to stick with it. So this is bad. This is a thing. I do a lot of work in pharma. That's my main job. I do pharma work. And there's this thing called brand loyalty, where drugs are often identical, more or less. Like the difference between, 2 or 3 brands of drugs are almost non-existent. So people are very loyal to the brand and the name of the drug. So they spend gargantuan amounts of money to influence the doctors, so that the doctors recommend their drugs. Because if the doctors say use this product, they can probably convince their patients to use something over something else. And I have spent 30 years of my life dealing with brand loyalty and having to try to keep people and try to move them from one brand to another. And let me tell you, it's going to be devastating, the number of people that are leaving D&D. I'm not saying they're going to be leaving forever, but it's going to take a long, long time for them to come back. The Duke of Awesome is back. The Duke of Awesome 6e is going to be terrible. WoTC, here's the base stuff, but if you want this really good feat, give us $4.99. Maybe. I've been saying they're going to do microtransactions like crazy, so I have a feeling, yes, they're going to do things like that. I don't think that they're going to have good feats that are $4.99. I think they're going to have spell effects and animations and skins and visual items. I think they're going to go crazy with the visuals, and that those will cost money. That is the standard methodology in video games, and I think they're going to use a lot of video game, and they might even use slot machine mechanics that are in MMOs. There's a lot of the psychology, gamification that you can use in your games. So I have a feeling they're going to be using all of that. Blue Jay said $3.72. Would you be able to do a stream or comment on the recent Foundry VTT statement released today? I am not aware of the Foundry statement.
I didn't see that there was a recent Foundry VTT statement. Let's read it to everybody.
Yeah, I don't know.
I see one that says 8 days ago, but is there one from today? Would it be on foundryvtt.com?
I don't know. If someone wants to link us the statement.
Like, I'm happy to read a major statement to everyone if there is one.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
Oh, someone wrote that they're going to have a VTT character builder that gives full-blown skins that can be customized with Hero Forge. Pricing per person, my best on that. Okay, now that's not Hero. That's not VTT. Foundry. Foundry statement is very detailed. Okay, David, give me the link.
Link us.
Oh, I don't know. You might not be able to put in links because I have that.
Yeah, that could be a concern.
That could be a concern. Or tell us where it is, because I'm looking on their.
Yeah, I went to Foundry's site and I did not. It did not pop up for me on their home. The top thing on their news was a house divided, available now.
I have the release prototype thing. Oh, well, you know what? Let me look on the Discord.
Gave me a link, which I will now give to you, Steven.
Okay.
It is called OGL 1.2 response and feedback.
Oh, okay. There we go.
It apparently was updated today, but it may have been an older one that was updated, and that's why we couldn't find it right away.
And of course,
let's see.
My Discord does not want to launch. There we go.
So,
oh, by the way, what?
So should we read this to everybody? Do people in chat want to hear about this? And then what we can do is, since this is a separate topic, we'll clip it out into a separate video starting from when I start reading this statement and put that into the videos so that other people will be able to realize it's here, because otherwise you would never expect to find it
Hold on.
here. So let's take a look.
Wait.
It's called
wait,
OGL 1.
Wait. I'm gonna bring it up.
Okay. It's called OGL 1.2 response and feedback. It says, yesterday, Wizards of the Coast shared a post starting the OGL playtest, which introduces draft terms of a new open gaming license version 1.2, hereafter called OGL 1.2. This new license is intended to replace the prior open game license version 1.0a, which has served and empowered the tabletop gaming industry since 2000. These new license terms are shared for public discussion after several false starts. OGL version 1.1 was a far more restrictive license, to the extent of not being an open license at all. An FAQ, which circulated regarding OGL version 2.0, maintained many of the objectionable restrictions of version 1.1 that prompted community outrage. The latest version, OGL 1.2, is a constructive step, doing away with many of the most dangerous clauses of version 1.1, but is still regressive compared to the original OGL 1.0a. We commend the team at Wizards of the Coast for taking community grievances seriously and for admitting the mistakes that led to OGL 1.1 and the breakdown of communication which followed. Wizards of the Coast is now asking for community feedback on the draft 1.2 license terms without further effort to engage directly with the creators who will be accepting the license. This survey process may be a hollow gesture. This article provides feedback from the Foundry virtual tabletop team, views which have not otherwise been solicited by Wizards of the Coast. So, draft OGL 1.2. Despite the improvements, there's still some serious problems with OGL 1.2. Wizards of the Coast has invited community discussion on this matter. It is important for us to advocate for our users, our product, and the value we bring to the D&D community. Unwitting acceptance. There's a particularly dangerous combination of statements in OGL 1.2, which, unless corrected by Wizards of the Coast, may result in creators unknowingly and non-consensually accepting the terms of the new license. It says, by using our licensed content, you agree to the terms of this license. And our licensed content covers any content in SRD 5.1 that is not in the Creative Commons. If a creator uses content from 5.1, the current version of the SRD, which has been available since May 2016, they implicitly agree to the terms of the license. This means simply by publishing any content developed under 1.0a and SRD version 5.1, many creators will unknowingly accept the 1.2 terms. This could be avoided with an explicit grace period for ongoing projects and an obvious version number increase to the SRD, which makes it clear by using that game content, you are accepting OGL 1.2. That's a good point that Foundry made. Steven, you and I even got confused about which one they were talking about. I assumed that they had done this already, and they didn't. So I was wrong. Deauthorization does not apply. OGL 1.2 perseveres with a dubious attempt to deauthorize the prior OGL 1.0a. Any creator who agrees to it affirmatively gives up their rights to continue using 1.0a. The new license acknowledges that previously published content is unaffected, but attempts to cast doubt into the validity of continued usage of OGL 1.0a for the creation, revision, or distribution of works. This is a misrepresentation of the text and clearly documented intention of the open game license. WoTC should focus on a path forward that incentivizes creators to adopt the new license because it offers superior access to game content, including content for 1D&D, rather than focusing misguided effort on trying to nullify the prior license. Irrevocable, unless decided otherwise. The new OGL 1.2 does include the significant term irrevocable. However, Wizards of the Coast has provided themselves with several ways to cancel the license, either individually or in total. Severability. The severability clause provides Wizards the ability to declare the entire license void, nullifying it for all creators who have ever used it if any part of the license is held to be unenforceable or invalid for any reason. Such a judgment would be easy for WoTC to obtain if desired. There are several clauses in the document which could be deemed unenforceable. You and I covered that previously as well, Stephen. Termination. The termination clause allows for a creator's license to be terminated unilaterally and immediately for any infringement on intellectual property without a period of notice or opportunity to cure the breach, as was required by OGL 1.0a. If a creator were to accidentally use aspects of WoTC material which belong to the our unlicensed content category, they could have their rights for the OGL immediately canceled with no opportunity to correct the mistake. Will WoTC do this? Well, if there is a creator they wish to eliminate, they might scour that creator's historical body of work looking for anything that can be argued as infringement of intellectual property rights. To be clear, we neither support nor advocate for intellectual property rights infringement. However, such rights are a complex topic. Creators should be given notice and allowed to correct an error without having the licensing rights to their body of work nullified. It's particularly funny to me because Wizards they put out a D&D movie poster that took art from a Paizo Intellect Devourer.
Well, because I guarantee
by accident. It wasn't their fault. It was an outside firm.
It was an outside
But the point
firm,
is that as Foundry says, mistakes can happen and you should give a right to cure.
Yep.
Class action waiver. Creators using OGL 1.2 waive all rights to participate in class, collective, or joint action. Wizards may take legal action against creators individually without the possibility for peers in the industry who would also be affected by such a ruling to participate or aid in that legal action. Every individual creator becomes responsible for maintaining that every clause in the OGL 1.2 is valid and enforceable in every legal action. Otherwise, Wizards could declare the whole license void for everyone. Creators adopting the OGL are looking for a license which inspires confidence that the foundation for their personal and financial investment is secure and stable. These clauses provide too much wiggle room for Wizards to take away a creator's rights if they deemed it necessary to do so. The virtual tabletop policy. The draft OGL 1.2 license references a separate document, the virtual tabletop policy, which covered the terms under which VTT content may be offered under the OGL. Unfortunately, this policy is severely flawed. A crucial issue with this document is that it is a policy rather than part of the legal terms of the OGL itself. As a policy, it can be changed without altering the terms of OGL 1.2. If Wizards of the Coast were to decide in the future they are not actually, quote, big fans of VTTs, this could easily become a restrictive policy which states VTTs are not even permitted. Just as print publishers have rightly insisted the OGL must be irrevocable, the rights granted to software projects must also have a secure and trustworthy foundation to justify the investment required to create digital tools. In addition to the concerning fluidity of the policy, the draft is frustratingly vague with regards to what is permitted, stating, and then they quote the part from yesterday about Magic Missile and how you could have it do 1d4 plus 1 damage automatically, but if there's an animation of Magic Missile streaking across the board, that's not a tabletop experience. That's more like a video game. So Foundry is going to dig down on that quote. Thou shalt not animate. The perplexing focus on animation of spell effects is an absurd heuristic as the primary example of what makes a VTT different from a video game. Differentiating between a VTT and a video game is essential. We contend it is not. And they're right because OGL 1.0a at least allows video games, but we'll move on. There are far more cogent classifiers to use. Are the actions of both player and non-player characters controlled by a human? Does the game experience provide a framework for collaborative storytelling? Can the game master invent new rules on the fly? Surely virtual tabletops and video games alike may both have animation present in the way they communicate information visually to the users. Even if a focus on animation is removed, it is concerning Wizards would choose which software features are appropriate for a virtual tabletop to implement and which are not. Is this really about NFTs? Equally absurd is the emphasis on NFTs as an insinuated threat of what a virtual tabletop would do if left unchecked by a governing policy from Wizards. This paragraph reads as a sort of confused fear-mongering that seeks to limit the quality of virtual tabletop software. Virtual tabletops that are used and beloved by the community do not incorporate NFTs, nor would they remain beloved by the community if they were to do so. Be good, but not too good. Under this policy, virtual tabletops should only replicate but not improve upon the experience of sitting around a physical table. This myopic perspective neglects that modern VTT software augments the experience of traditional play by heightening the quality of experience for players at the table, regardless of whether the game is played in person or remotely. For many gamers, virtual tabletop software is an integral part of the TTRPG experience and not just a fallback option when a traditional mode of play is unavailable. We would have expected a team who are, quote, gamers and big fans of VTTs to understand this. Dissecting the clumsy wording of this policy is ultimately a distraction from a more fundamental question: is it even right for an open game license to restrict product formats at all? If a goal of the OGL 1.2 license is to foster creativity and further grow the profile of D&D as a game and a brand, its authors are misled in attempts to suppress technological innovation that can enrich the quality of play or empower storytellers to deliver immersive experiences. Rewriting historical intent. The current Open Game License 1.0a and its authors were not restrictive in this regard. This is made clear by the Open Game License frequently asked questions featured on the Wizards of the Coast website as recently as November 2021. And I think it even was on there a little after that. But they then quote, just the same way I interrupted their statement to say, no, the OGL 1.0a allows it. They quote that it's explicitly allowed for video games and software. They even tell you how. Wizards used to tell you how to do it and what kind of programs could make it in there, such as character generators and random treasure generators, but don't use product identity. So you could have a video game. It specifically says, yes, you could make a video game, but not like Elminster's Undermountain Crawl. These FAQs make the open intention of the OGL abundantly clear, says Foundry. Neither do they reflect a single employee's opinion. These documents were published in 2004 and maintained on the Wizards website until November 2021, when they were removed without comment. In the blog post on D&D Beyond, Kyle Brink states, For over 20 years, thousands of creators have helped grow the TTRPG community using a shared set of game mechanics that are the foundation for their unique worlds and other creations. We don't want that to change, and we've heard loud and clear that neither do you. Then Foundry says, Wizards of the Coast is communicating a clear goal to continue their commitment to open gaming, citing the tradition of the past 20 years. Restrictions placed specifically on software, regardless of the blurry distinction between whether that software is a virtual tabletop or a video game, were never part of the OGL. Adding such restrictions limiting use of content in digital formats should be clearly seen as a targeted and anti-competitive measure designed to limit innovation and reduce the quality of products available to customers. A robust conversation. There has been a clear change in approach by leadership at Wizards of the Coast in terms of how they engage with the community on this issue. The change in tone of the conversation and the increased level of communication with Wizards is refreshing and encouraging. Kyle Brink has done a good job providing communication that is more transparent and relatable. Kyle writes about the need to have a robust conversation about this topic, the desire to support VTT usage for both OGL creators and VTT operators. We hope that commitment to discussion is sincere. VTT policy does conclude with, we say this is a conversation. Does that mean the policy can change? Yes, we need your feedback as the tabletop space evolves. The potential of VTTs is tremendous and exciting, and we don't want to harm their development. Foundry continues to say, the sentiment here and invitation to provide feedback is welcome. The text and implied subtext of the virtual tabletop policy, however, causes us to feel that Wizards does want to harm the development of Foundry virtual tabletop. If that is not the case, a robust conversation is needed to align on a mutually beneficial path forward. Our sincere efforts to engage with Wizards of the Coast on this matter have been met with long periods of silence, lack of response to emails, and a history of postponed discussions. To Wizards of the Coast, if it is genuinely the desire of Wizards to foster a space where virtual tabletop usage and operation is supported, I sincerely encourage Kyle and the WoTC team to reach out and reestablish a constructive dialogue. VTT usage in digital content is clearly a key area of focus for the new OGL. Talking with the people who create and operate virtual tabletops should be a key area of focus for the conversation that determines the path forward. More broadly, you are proposing a contract that you want creators, publishers, and VTT operators to accept. We urge you to consult with the parties who would agree to those terms. Otherwise, this process more closely resembles an appeal to the community for permission than a desire to iterate together. To our community, for the members of our community, and members of the TTRPG community at large who care about the future for digital tools in this hobby, we urge you to respectfully share these concerns with Wizards of the Coast when given the opportunity to provide survey feedback on the draft OGL 1.2. Please engage respectfully with this topic using the following resources. They link to the survey, the OGL channel of their Discord server, the Open D&D and Open RPG tags on social media. Thank you all for your support and advocacy for Foundry VTT and other software projects during the conversation, the Foundry Virtual Tabletop team. So that's their statement. And it sounds like they had a lot of the same concerns that we had earlier in their statement there.
Pretty much. Not trying to be flippant, but yeah, that sounds like a lot of the same stuff that we were concerned about in their statement. So yeah, it's, I mean, look, we it's like I'm beating a dead horse. Like they don't want competition, they just don't. And they're trying to force people, through sneaky means to use OGL 1.2. And, they're trying everything in their power to force people into using this. And I mean, if they're going to go this route, I mean, like I wasn't that worried because I was, thinking I would fight this. But I mean, if they're going to go through this much legwork and effort to make it so that if you use anything in OGL, even for D&D products, fine, then I'll just take out all the freaking D&D stuff, or maybe even just stop developing for D&D altogether. I mean, it's like, if you're going to make it this hard for us, then, oh well, I guess we can't develop for you anymore, and I guess we'll have to only develop for Pathfinder going forward. I mean, are you really? It's like you're literally trying to make us stop working for you or with you, not for you, but with you. And I mean, it's so insidious, and it's just so obvious. Like, they actually had a really good opportunity to gain back some trust, but now after what we did and now reading this, it's just more of the same, man. It's like, when are you guys gonna get it? Like, just stop. Stop. Have some confidence in your program and your game. Ugh, whatever. Makes me upset. let's look at some other super chats because I don't want to go on all
So
day.
we were right after the one that asked about the Foundry statement, right? Was that Brandon Reynolds for
Yes.
$5 saying they
Yes.
should use the WoW method, giving people a free trial and hook me for 4 years?
Yeah, of course. That's standard. Why do you think I gave you guys a free first chapter for Indigo Isles? I mean, I want you to, I'm truly want you to have something to play. It's a first level adventure. I think it's a lot of fun. It's good for families, and it's a goofy, interesting setting that doesn't even have humans, elves, dwarves. Those aren't even the main ancestries, and it's a very unique, fun setting. And it starts off like with a bang. Like it literally starts off with find a treasure map. Go. Like that's it. It starts like that. There's no ramp up. It just gets right out of the gate. It starts right in like the beginning of the adventure. Like as opposed to like usually you meet in a bar and you got to find the person and you got to find what the adventure's about, and there's like all this lead up. It's all gone. There's no prelude. It's boom, go, and that's it. So anyhow, let's reason together. Sent a $1 super chat. Thanks. I don't think he had any questions. Jason Williams.
Oh yeah, that's nice though.
Jay's very nice. Jason Williams sent $5. He says, my game, the Galactic Solar Wars, will be using either Orc or my own game license. Yep. I mean, I want to use Orc too, but again, we got to see what's out there. And, more and more people or my lawyers are like, you don't even need it. Truthfully. Black Moose 5 sent a $5 super chat. People need to understand OGL 1.0A revocation is the most destructive part of what they're trying to do. Everything else is smokescreen. Yes. Keep saying they are forcing people to use 6th edition whether you want to or not. And they're not just forcing you, the player, but they're forcing us, the developer, so that we can't develop in 5th edition anymore because they don't want anyone to ever produce for 5th edition ever again and want to force everyone to buy their new product. They're trying to do planned obsolescence for an RPG, and good luck with that. You can see, it's one thing to do with the cell phone, the whole other thing to do with a gaming system. Sean Wolf sent a $5 super chat and says, I feel like everyone's forgetting about character creation tools, which WoTC already has CC'd for Dungeons & Dragons, Hold the Line. Oh, C&D for. I'm not forgetting it. I keep saying they're trying to control the tool sets. If they control the tool sets, everyone else will just fall in line and go out of business. I had a whole rant about that. I don't even remember how many days ago, like a day or two ago about that, is that you control the tool sets, you control everyone, including the third-party publishers. And that's why they're being so heavy-handed in all this, is that it's all about control. It's all about control. I'm saying the 3 pillars. Pillar 1, revoke OGL. Pillar 2, control. Pillar 3, destroy all their other VTTs. So there's one of the pillars, control. Antonio Gabriel Montes sent a 50-cent super chat. I didn't even know you can do that. See Salsa Crown of the Magister for an OGL game. Yeah, that the Crown of the Magister was created using 5e rules. I actually have it. I never played it. Got pretty good reviews. But yeah, that's a role-playing game that was using the OGL open license. And I guess you can't do that anymore. And then Caio Santos sent a 96-cent super chat saying, having worked for Paizo and others, they have the absolute worst pay rates for artwork in the TT RPG space. They really need to address it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Overall issue, but I will say, because of things like Fiverr and just the pandemic and the internet, it is, I'm not going to defend them, but it is supply and demand because I'm seeing that in everything. I mean, like a good example, and this is very different, is that as little as 10 years ago, I mean, let me back up. The center of publishing was Manhattan. Like every single publisher, all neighbors, if you're a publisher and you're in magazines, you're in Manhattan. As simple as that. and they were all in Manhattan. And they paid really well. Everyone was there. If you didn't like your job, you can literally go across the street and get another one at a different magazine. And my wife was in magazines. I worked with magazines, and she worked in magazines for over 20 years. She worked for Hearst Publications. Hearst bought and built this insanely beautiful building on 57th Street, and they filled that entire building with every single person at Hearst, and they put all their magazines together in one building. Over the course of 10 years, they slowly started to let people work at home. In fact, my wife was the first person ever on Hearst. She was the pilot program to work at home. And what happened is she worked at home. They said, wow, this is pretty good. Then everyone started to work at home, and then they started to lease out the building. They emptied it of all their employees and found out they can make a lot more money leasing this building than putting their own people in it. And then a couple years later, they just said, we're getting rid of everyone. You have two options. You can either relocate to South Carolina or take a severance package. And that's it. And everyone got reduced salaries. And that's happening all over the place. I'm not defending the rates are low, but right now, when it comes to, say, artwork, you are competing with everyone in the world. You're not competing with someone down the street. You're not competing with, someone local. Like, you're competing with anyone else in the world. And it sucks. I mean, there's nothing about it. It's like their rates might be not the greatest, but I do know, and I know some of the people they work with, some of these people live in countries that have a much lower cost of living, and they are very happy with those rates. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I am saying that is why sometimes these rates are so low. Give me a little insight into that. Langerotics, Aaron Letterman sent a $5 super chat and says, Tactical Adventures said they're working on a separate specific license for WoTC for Solsta, not just OGL. Smart, see a move on their part. So yeah, again, I didn't look at Solsta. I don't know the exact terminology if they used OGL or they had their own license. I know the game is based on 5th edition. I have it. I never played it, but it's, if they had their own separate license, which I imagine they did the same way that Alcat has a separate license for their Paizo games, I'm sure they do. Let's Reason Together did another $1 super chat. Maybe it's below. Nope, just a $1 super chat. Well, thanks. Let's Reason Together. But I think we're gonna wrap things up.
That makes sense.
Because it's been 2 hours and
we've been here for a while.
It feels like 20 hours, and I actually want to now relax over the weekend because there can't be anything else dropping, can there? I hope not.
I mean, I don't think so, because WoTC at least is not going to drop something on the weekend.
They're not.
While they don't have anybody in the office.
No, they're not. They're not dropping. That was more of a joke. But
yeah, it's not like Linda Codega. They seem to always know when things are going to happen because they always drop out. I'm leaving for a few hours to go on a flight. There better not be anything that happens. And then during that time, there's always some kind of statement or something.
Yeah. I will say, all right, people are actually answering the question that Solasta started as OGL, but then they got a license. They used SRD content. They used their own homebrew stuff. I did not follow that game. I know very little about it other than it's pretty good and it's a D&D game using 5e. That's it. That's all I know about it. I don't know anything else about it. Even though I'm very big in the video games, I just didn't follow that one. But as for us, we have our Extinction Curse live game Sunday night. And it'll probably be somewhere between 8:30 and 9 Eastern. So if you want to watch myself, Rob Tremarco, Lauren Seg, Vanessa Hoskins, now of Paizo, and Rob Pontus play Extinction Curse. Come on down. They're going to be fighting and riding dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus Rex dinosaurs. This is going to be a crazy fight. And I tell you, it doesn't matter. It's in the middle of the adventure path. It's the middle of the 4th chapter. Don't matter. Okay, we're going to set this up that you can just come in and watch and have fun. Who doesn't want to see a combat where people are using dinosaur Tyrannosaurus Rex as mounts to attack the bad guys? It's going to be a fun time, I promise. So that's on Sunday night. And then on Monday night, we have Agents of Edgewatch once again. And they've had 8 combats in the span of, they had 7 combats in the span of 2 hours. And now they had an 8th combat about 8 hours later. They are done. They're like they were drained twice. Wow. They had to do restorations. People were dropping. They're like, mercy, stop attacking us. Please stop attacking us. Like, we got nothing left. We're out of spells. We're out of everything. And I was like, I broke them. Lovely, great feeling. Such a great feeling.
Oh no.
Well, now they're gonna get to finally rest, and then we're actually almost done. So it's gonna be fun. That's a fun one too. And we went live. That's up on if you want to watch it. And there's you can't see the VTT because I did it in like 15 minutes. I'm gonna try to get the VT up for the next one so you can actually see what's going on. And then also on Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. we have Linda Kodega on, and we will talk with them, and that should be a fun interview because they have been busy. And what are you doing, Mark? I see you're just typing away, doing your Ask Me Anything, I presume.
I'm doing my AMA and this at the same time. I can multitask.
Yes. So, and if anyone's playing Pathfinder, come on over to the Discord. Come to discord.rollforcombat.com. Say hi. If you have any questions, feel free to pop in. The people have been very helpful answering everyone's new questions. And don't forget to like and subscribe. But
yeah, please like and subscribe.
Yep. And otherwise, we will see you, well, it looks like a lot next week. So with that, have a good weekend, everyone. See ya.